Mazujan Madden in Acapulco, Mexico, sitting on the side of my bed at almost 2 in the morning, having slept a lot and got up. And as I was heading back for bed, I realized that I was pretty awake after having a lot of sleep, and that I ought to tell the story in one place of my involvement with the Matamoros Cartel when I was in Brownsville, Texas. It's a hell of a story, extends over 6 days, and I've told it before, but in 3 installments, so I'm going to attempt to do it in one installment here. And here goes. I had been at that point traveling for almost 3 years through mostly the southwest of the U.S. in a camper van. I spent 9 months in the Rio Grande Valley from McAllen, Texas at the western edge, all the way back down to South Padre Island, where I spent a lot of time. But Brownsville, Texas was the biggest town in all of that, right across from Matamoros. I was trying to find a place to cross illegally into Mexico because my tags were expired in my camper van. There's lots of stories involved in that. And the story of finally crossing successfully is a good story, but we're not telling those now. During that time, I 3 times walked across the pedestrian bridge from Brownsville into Matamoros. And on one of those occasions, I was really struck by all the beautiful, sad, brown people queued up at the Matamoros Bridge trying to get into the U.S. It broke my heart. Such sweet people and lovely. When I walked past them with my big dog, if a child was afraid of the dog, the mother would hold the child and reassure them and smile at me. Such lovely people. And when I got back over to the Brownsville side, my heart was breaking. I couldn't come up with any way I could help those people, but I wanted to. And I encountered on the Texas side an American woman who was homeless on the Brownsville side, and she needed help. I didn't completely trust her. There was something off about her, but I wanted to help somehow. I knew I wasn't going to take her in my camper van, which I do have a history of doing with homeless young women to get them off the street. And I gave her a little bit of money, and she told me a story. She told me the part of the story. She told me why she was stuck on the Brownsville side. Her husband was on the Matamoros side, and she couldn't cross over. And he was coming back and forth to help her. But that he was going to come the next morning, and she needed a place to stay. So, long story short, I took her in the camper van. And over the course of a long night, I was parking a lot at a community college campus on the Brownsville side, right next to a big woods, and my dog had fun in the woods there. She was a hysterical, kind of crazy person who spent half the night on the phone with her husband, crying and yelling. And God, I just wanted to get rid of her. But I took her in the morning to meet her husband he was walking across the Matamoros Bridge, and he did. And he was a really sharp, she was tall and kind of goofy looking, attractive maybe, but there was something goofy about her, something that was off. And he was very sharply dressed and together guy. And I spent 3 hours with them that morning. We went to a homeless meal and did some walking around. And she had told me by that point that he worked for the Matamoros Cartel and was in fact a hitman for them. And I just couldn't put all this together because I liked this guy a lot. And at one point when she was off doing something at the homeless place, I said to him, "Why are you with her? She's like cracked and you don't seem to be. What's up?" And he told me a story about how she had stuck with him through thick and thin. They had been together for something like 4 years, and at one point he had had a terrible motorcycle accident, and she rode that out with him, the long recovery from that, and he was loyal to her. But she was considered to be a liability by his employers, the cartel, because she was a user of heroin. And she was on, what's the medicine they take to get off of heroin? She went to a methadone clinic in Brownsville several times a week for her shot of methadone. And he was helping her through that process. But on one occasion when she used, she had smashed his car, and she was just generally viewed as a liability, that she'd come calling for him on the Matamoros side, and she was going to blow his cover entirely. And they had made the ultimatum. His bosses had said to him, "She comes across here again looking for you, and we're taking her out. She will disappear." So he was trying to save her life, basically. What a story. So he and I ended up with quite a correspondence. We'd talk on the phone, we'd exchange messages, and I was lonely from, at that point, it was almost 3 years on the road with the dog only. So he told me a lot about his story. That at that point, after 3 years as a hitman for the cartel, maybe longer, I think it was longer, and something like 17 kills, one of them quite notorious. He was at that point only doing oppo, or doing ops, where he would set up the target and not take them out of it. He did the research. No more killing. One night he took me across, he said, "I want to take you to the cartel." His deal was he wanted me not to head further south into Mexico. He wanted me to set up a life in Matamoros. He says, "We'll help you. We'll get your car across. We'll take care of your car, change the tags, do everything, get you a phony ID, and you'll have a good life in Matamoros. The Matamoros brothel is wonderful. The women are fabulous. The casino is really great too." He took me to the casino. We did not get in because of my dog, and the manager of the casino was quite apologetic. But no, some of his patrons would be scared of the dog. And as we were driving from there, and he was going to get me into a motel in Matamoros there, he got a call from a lieutenant, not the head of the cartel who was his boss, but one of the lieutenants, giving him an assignment to take somebody out. And I heard him say on the phone, "No, I don't do that anymore. I just don't do that anymore. Get somebody else." And finally I heard him say, "Okay, one last time, but that's it, all right?" And then he made another call to somebody else, arranging for them to do it. And I heard him say, "You know the drill. No police report, no body on the pavement. It's got to be nice and clean." This was quite, quite, quite the listening for me as a 70-something PhD clinical psychologist, white middle-class guy, to be in on this conversation. Finally, he couldn't get me into a motel that night, and he dropped me back off at the bridge, and I went back across to my camper van on the other side. So he arranged for $1,300 American that they would take care of my car and give me new tags. They were going to change the ID number on the car, the whole thing, and I would get a Mexican driver's license for $1,300. And he was going to meet me at the foot of the big bridge there in Matamoros. There's 3 crossings. This was the big one. On the Brownsville side, he was going to meet me at 9 o'clock at night. I would pass him the $1,300, and we would get the whole thing done that night. And it was like December 6th. Well, he arrives at 9 o'clock that night, and he's clearly quite upset and worried. He says, he had said twice before, my boss is nagged. He was on the bubble a lot because of his crazy wife, Angel. He was Richard and she was Angel. And that night he was quite upset, but also excited. He says, I got you a better deal. I got you a better deal. It's going to be $700 instead of $1,300. I took it to somebody else and got you a much better deal. But the problem is the person I took it from is my boss, the head of the cartel, and he's pissed. He found out about what happened and he is pissed. But we're going to get it for you a lot cheaper. I'm going to come back at midnight. We'll come back at midnight. We'll take you to a smaller bridge, one of the other crossings, where our man, we've made arrangements with the guy at the booth, and we'll get you across. So, okay, this is all so far outside of my comfort zone. All right, great. Midnight, he doesn't arrive. 1 o'clock in the morning, he doesn't arrive. 2 o'clock in the morning, he has not arrived. And I'm going, they killed him. They killed him, probably Angel. Oh, shit. I really liked that guy. I did. I liked him an awful lot. It was a real bromance. What do I do? Well, no bodies on the pavement, no police report. They knew my van. It was clear. He had made it clear to me. They knew my van, and they're going to watch out for you. They'll make sure you're safe. Big black van, camper van. Well, I'm next. I'm next because I saw him last, and I'm the kind of guy who might make a police report. I'm next. So by 7 in the morning, I was driving lickety-split out of Brownsville and did not stop until I got to Progreso, Texas. Small border crossing, 30 miles west of Brownsville. And I spent a lot of time out there and finally did cross over there. Well, I was scared. I felt I was safe over there. I figured this was probably outside of the cartel range. But before I crossed in, which took another 3 months before I crossed in, a full month later, I was in Port Isabel, Texas, the gateway to South Padre Island, where I spent a lot of time. And at a convenience store there, I saw a woman walking across the field towards me, going, she looks familiar. When she got up close, I went, Angel, what are you doing here? You're dead. You're dead. Why are you here? She says, that man lied about everything. Everything he told us, the year he had me believing he worked for the cartel. He didn't work for the cartel. He knew the cartel. They indulged him. He was a fanboy. No, he didn't work for them. It was all a lie. The thing about, he told you about me crashing his car, that was my car. It was my car that he was using, never his car. And the night he scammed you for the 700 pesos, $700, earlier that night he told me he was going to do it. He was going to take you for some money. all a lie. Everything, everything, everything. Well, I had to rearrange a lot of my files. So that's the story. That's the story. She says he's still over there. He's living the good life in Matamoros. Not as good as he claims. No, in some ways he's hanging on. All right, that's the story, folks. We'll see if it hangs together. I got to review it to see if it makes any sense before I post it. Have a good night.